Greetings, dreamers. Crisp leaves are beginning to fall as the fragile season of autumn arrives. Rarely is nature so lovely as when the trees turn and shed their delicate coverings. Children return to school, farmers reap their harvests, and a chill begins to settle on the air as many bonfires are lit in celebration of this wistful season of change. Our protagonist is going through some changes as well. She is growing up, whether she likes it or not. Nostalgic memories, while comforting, must not hamper us from seeking our greater purpose. The last time we read together, the storm was in pursuit. She fled from one danger only to run headlong into another. She dispatched a monster with the help of some living treasures and an unlikely steed. She was then carried away to the luminant sanctuary of an old sage, who gifted her a dream star. And that is where our chapter begins. Let's turn the page. The Autumn Shard.
How many times have we been through all of this? Each time the big picture becomes clearer and we make fewer mistakes. Have courage. Misunderstandings are inevitable. Nobody is perfect. Throw caution to the wind and march to the beat of your own drum. If you make the rules up as you go, then there will be no need for excuses. That's all I have to say for now.
Chapter 4. Marigold, Rivers of Poetry. The old man's voice sounds so familiar. She cannot shake the suspicion that he might be someone from beyond the dream, whom she has brought with her, much like Grouper and the Sun Bear. She is starting to think that everything in this reverie has some connection to her waking life. Strangely, though, she can't remember much of her time beyond the dream. She hasn't had any reason to question this until Stargazer asks her.
So what do you have memories of prior to your arrival here?
They enter into the lighthouse through a large, symbol-laden wooden door with a steel lock that opens after Stargazer waves his hand in front of it. They step through a dark enclosure and begin ascending a spiral staircase, lit dimly by blue light. The door creaks softly shut behind them, and she gets the feeling that they are no longer even on the island, as though this silent stronghold is some kind of pocket dimension that has transported them far beyond the previous world.
I remember waking up, feeling sick and going into the bathroom, and I remember being pulled into this dream, and then...
Ah, so you believe this is but a dream?
Stargazer interrupts her. He begins rhythmically tapping the untrimmed fingernails of his right hand on his staff, while tugging at the tip of his long beard with his left, curling the scraggly hairs around his crooked fingers. Both of these are distracting and rather annoying habits.
Why would you think that? Is it because of the dream stars?
Well, I guess I don't really know. Everything around here is just so strange. It reminds me of...
She stops because she can't remember anything anymore. The picture of her life has been erased from her conscious mind. She is certain it was there before, but something has wiped it away or concealed it behind a fog of confusion.
Why can't I remember my life?
She takes a deep breath to try and calm herself down. She has heard about people losing their memories due to traumatic circumstances.
Memory is a funny thing.
Stargazer begins.
It comes and it goes. Maybe the life you think is real is the dream, and this one is the truth. Have you ever considered that?
He lifts an eyebrow.
No, I'm guessing not. So if this is really just a dream, then all you have to do is wait it out, right? Eventually, you will wake up, and then everything will be back in its proper place.
Yes, I suppose so.
She pauses.
But what if it's not a dream?
Precisely. Now you're using your brain and questioning everything. That's good. Asking questions is how we learn and remember what we have forgotten.
The old man smiles and winks back at her as they approach the top of the spiral stair and enter into a glorious watch room, the likes of which she would never have imagined to be hidden within the old, run-down lighthouse. There are so many fine things therein. The study is a round room constructed of large stones. It's full of books and papers, unfinished experiments, drawings, shiny odds and ends dangling from the coffered ceiling, a woven rug richly sewn with symbols similar to those adorning her cape, and a dusty writing desk beside an open window, outside of which she can see the grand, swirling cosmos. There are thick purple clouds formed from twinkling stardust, and comets cascading down like rain from heaven. Behind one of the bookshelves, a cricket is chirping. The Stargazer seems to be perturbed by this. He raises an eyebrow again.
So, I guess this is why you are called Stargazer.
She pokes her head out the window and marvels at the nebulous universe sparkling before her.
Yes, I do have my head in the clouds, literally.
He snidely replies.
I am always watching and waiting for what is coming next. I am a bit of a seer, you see. I am given to prognostication, attempting to predict the future, that is. Much like the individual who made that crimson cloak for you, no doubt. I foresaw your coming.
He steps up to a telescope that is positioned by the open window and squints through its eyepiece. Celestial winds ripple his threadbare robe. The amnesic mental shroud lifts temporarily, and she recollects her ancestors' wisdom as she touches the perpetually fluctuating symbols on her adornments.
What do you know of my grandmother?
She asks, glimpsing a faded memory and feeling happy to remember at least something about her previous life. Stargazer is still peering through his astral spyglass.
I know she must have been a powerful sorceress, for those symbols you wear are sigils of protection from the elements and any dangers that might harm you. That mantle is a transformative garment, a gift of maturation, and it will continually change as you grow.
Stargazer turns his spyglass towards her and looks her over.
The symbol on your back is the one that interests me the most. It is a triune of nature glyphs, and they are very prominent.
She tugs on her cape and cranes her neck to look over her shoulder, but she still can't see it clearly.
I'm sorry I don't have mirrors for you to inspect it yourself, but I can sketch it for you.
The old man quickly draws the symbol and shows it to her.
You see? It's telling you something about yourself. Unfortunately, I do not know what it means. I have never seen it before. Oh, I just realized. I have not yet asked you, what is your name?
She is my name.
She is reminded that her moniker feels hollow and empty to speak.
She?
Stargazer lifts his eyebrow again.
Who gave you this name? Was it the Nameless One? The Dark Light, who even now is searching for you? We have been battling it for an eon. Many of my closest friends have fallen prey to this darkness.
She sees the old man's face droop and turn a pale shade of sadness.
You know it by a different name. The name it has given itself.
Lukiat.
She speaks the name, and a chill runs through her body.
Shh! We must not speak that anathema, for when it echoes, it will send out ripples.
Stargazer stares worriedly out his window to the universe.
Like a pebble dropped into a pond, its effect reaches to the very edges. Hopefully, it did not hear you.
He continues.
Names are powerful. They hold within them the identity of one's virtue. Knowing one's real name bestows divinity. It can also grant others power over you if they conceal it behind a pseudonym, a lie, and a curse that carries with it death. So that is your true quest.
Stargazer crosses his arms.
As if you didn't already know.
She looks at the old man, puzzled.
What? What is my quest?
Why, to seek out your real name, of course.
Stargazer guarantees.
The reason you remember so little is because your name has been hidden from you. You must go and seek it out. But you are not yet prepared for the journey ahead. I think I should send you to school. Yes, all children must attend school. You will go in order to learn the skills you need to survive. I cannot teach you that which you have to learn, but I know who can. You will beseech the Ascendant for help.
Stargazer waves his hands around and the ceiling of the study opens to uncover a spinning vortex.
You have 3 dream stars now. If you bring them together, their combined strength will open a passageway into the next facet of being. Impart that living weapon you are carrying with the star that I entrusted to you, and release an arrow into the void.
She does as the old man instructs, and places the blue jewel in the central groove of Speartooth. She pulls a springy green arrow from her magic quiver that has found its proper place around her waist, and takes aim at the skylight. Just then, she hears a phrase echoing through her thoughts, like an incantation. It stirs up deep memories veiled within her foggy brain.
Mind over matter, matter over mind. Don't blame the dreamer for the hole you left in time.
With a sharp twang, she lets loose the verdant arrow. It flies like a rocket through the barrier, igniting the dome's oculus in a burning halo and painting magnificent patterns across the sky. The room is collapsing all around her, and the circular carpet in the center of the stone floor is to be her launch pad. The head of the arrow disintegrates as the shaft curls up sleepily and vanishes into the corridors of eternity. She is instantly lifted into a starry moonlit sky and finds herself before the steps of an opulent building. She looks down at her feet and realizes that she is walking upon substantial clouds, firm but flexible and resilient. A bone-rattling roar splits the symmetry of calm, and a breathtaking beast of legend comes swooping down upon her, blocking her passage up the stairs to the fabulous temple. It speaks to her in a booming voice that makes her toes curl up inside her boots.
None may enter without my permission. I am the Ascendant. Who is this feeble creature that trembles upon the steps of my sacred temple? Slender as a blade of grass, and as puny as an insect, begging to be crushed underfoot.
I am called She, though I am sure it is not my true name. I have come at the behest of the Stargazer, who said that you might teach me whatever I need to know.
Strangely enough, this legendary creature does not frighten her at all. In fact, she is very excited at the notion of being addressed by a dragon. She isn't trembling so much as swaying and trying to get used to the sensation of walking on clouds.
You are absolutely gorgeous.
She tries flattery on the beast,
May I pet you?
but dragons are not susceptible to it.
Let me. I am not a dog. You may not lay your fragile little mitts on me. My scales would slice them to ribbons.
The dragon snorts, and vaporous mist slips from its nostrils.
So, the Stargazer has sent you before me to learn something, eh? What exactly do you imagine I can teach you? More importantly, do you really want to learn, or do you just wish to know? Useful knowledge requires severe discipline to obtain. If it is truly your heart's desire for me to become your mentor, then you will have to endure plenty of suffering. Are you willing to die in order to become a god amongst warriors?
I am.
She announces boldly, without even considering the ultimate consequences. The dragon stares at her. Then, quite unexpectedly, it begins laughing. Its demeanor turns a bit more pleasant.
Well, my new pupil, first you must be given a war name. She is not a proper title for a warrior. It tells your enemies nothing about you. A name should instill fear in the hearts of those who would try to strike you down.
The dragon leans in very close and sniffs at her cloak. It flutters and undulates with each of the drake's breaths.
I shall dub thee Nethelebata, the Cloud Walker. Yes, that is your new nickname.
That doesn't seem very intimidating.
She complains.
How about something like Face Smasher or Brain Scrambler?
Have you ever smashed a face or scrambled a brain?
The Ascendant asks, hovering there with a skeptical expression.
Well, no, not really. I've been mixed up in a couple of fistfights before, though.
She reluctantly responds.
A name should also tell the truth.
The Saurian says.
All I know about you right now is that you are young and can walk on top of clouds. Admittedly, I've never seen any other two-legged rambler do this, so it is something special about you. Perhaps your name will change after a while, but for now, I shall call you Nethelebata.
She is a bit disappointed by this, but accepts the dragon's dubbing.
Now, first things first. You must sit in complete meditative silence on the steps of this temple for 5 years. I will return when you have finished.
The Ascendant turns to leave.
5 years?
She exclaims.
I can't sit still for 5 minutes.
The dragon is irritated by her cynical attitude and roars at her in encouragement to adjust it.
Make not a sound, or I will hear it and cast you out of the sky. You will be forbidden to return if you are unable to complete this exercise. Do you have a problem with that? Perhaps you are ready to quit before you have even begun, eh? You must earn the privilege of my teachings.
She sits down on the steps with a pouting lip, crosses her legs, and closes her eyes, focusing on another place and time. She can't imagine sitting here for 5 years in complete silence, but something within tells her that she must try. The Ascendant smiles and floats off behind the ethereal sanctum. Meditation is a difficult task. It is not so simple as just closing one's eyes and remaining still. You have to quiet the ceaseless inner voice. It's always there. Some call it a conscience. Some say that an angel and a devil sit on each of our shoulders, attempting to influence our behavior. Whatever it is, it hardly ever shuts up. She is having a great deal of trouble finding a place of mental calm. There's no right or wrong way to achieve emptiness and singularity with the inner universe. She opens one eye, just a crack, to see if the dragon is still lurking about, waiting for her to sneeze or sigh too loudly. What she sees is not at all what she expects. She is no longer planted on the temple's steps. She's back in her old bedroom, settled on her bed. She had forgotten the color of the walls, the scent of her candles, and the sound of grouper blowing bubbles in her fishbowl. It's all so serene. Then, she hears angry shouting coming from the other side of her bedroom wall. People are arguing. There's a loud crash and a scream, followed by crying. She feels upset, but she has no context, for the memory is incomplete. She covers her face with her hands and wishes the world away, to find that when she removes her hands, she is somewhere else again. She is standing beside a casket surrounded by flowers. Lying there, looking as peaceful as a dove, her beautiful grandmother Sophia has passed away. She remembers how much she adored her grandmother, and the pain of knowing that she is gone forever returns to crush her heart. Silvery tears cloud over her vision, and when she wipes them away, she finds herself standing over a cowering child. He is the same age as herself. The child is whimpering about his bloodied nose and bruised eye. There's a crowd of children encircling them, cheering. One punch, one big punch. She knocked down Bully Butch with one big punch. She frowns at the blood on her knuckles. She remembers being very angry. She also remembers being scared by the thought of how much trouble she'd be in if a grown-up was to find out what she had done. Right then, she hears the voice of an adult screaming her name, but before she can wrap her ears around the sound of it, a flood of disconnected images gushes through her mind and jerks her awake. She is back on the temple steps, and the Ascendant is hovering before her.
Well now, that wasn't so hard, was it?
How long have I been...
The dragon cuts her off mid-sentence.
Long enough.
The Ascendant swoops in close.
You have relived all the sorrows of your life, though most were veritably brief, and no doubt quickly forgotten. You have dissolved them into your being, and you will remember them no more. For these emotions are what remind the soul of its mortal prison. Now, without their imaginary weight, you are as light and as free as those birds perched atop the doors of my temple.
She looks up and sees the birds flapping their vibrant wings in unison and unlatching the doors. The temple opens, streaming forth a pure light. The dragon nudges her with its snout.
Step forth, Nefelimata. You have earned your passage.
She looks around, a bit disoriented by the visions she's just had. She can scarcely remember, but she is still in touch with the feelings that accompanied them. The temple's light feels warm and inviting. The Ascendant then confesses a secret truth to her.
I may have referred to this as my temple, but it doesn't truly belong to me. I just built them. This is the 21st one I have constructed. I erect these buildings in preparation for the arrival of their namesakes. The bell tolls for you, Nefelimata. It was yours before I even laid the foundation, full of the things you have chosen to hold sacred.
As she steps across the threshold into her temple, she feels quite different than before. There is an energy brewing within her that was not there previously. Self-assurance and a swell of confidence, but also a humbling sensation of gratitude and a willingness to learn. She looks to the majestic dragon that hovers above her.
I seem to understand much more. I remember things. Abstractly cryptic things, as though I've always known them.
You are growing up, Nefelimata.
The dragon says.
You are accepting responsibility for yourself, and you have turned over a new leaf. You've become an empty vessel, waiting to be filled with knowledge and new experiences.
The Ascendant floats ahead of her down a long hallway of seemingly endless bookshelves. The ceiling is vaulted and filled with fluttering birds of all sorts. She realizes now that she is no longer carrying Speartooth, nor her Viridian quiver from the laughing tree.
Where are my things? My bow and my arrows?
She asks.
Oh, no doubt where you left them while you were training. You can go and retrieve them shortly.
The winged serpent responds very matter-of-factly. She is confused and thinks the Ascendant is being facetious. Is this another test? Or some kind of sardonic trick?
Training? But I've had no training.
She stops walking amid the long hallway. She can feel all of her muscles quivering. They throb with memories of leaping and flipping, of lifting, running, and straining, of battling foes formed from clouds and being pushed to the absolute brink, then going beyond it.
While your mind was musing on the temple steps, your body was enduring great hardships under my relentless tutelage.
The dragon smiles wryly.
For, you see, the mind is much more fragile than the body. Keeping your brain occupied is the best way to overcome any physical discomfort. It allows me to push you well beyond what you could ever believe yourself capable of.
Her heart sinks upon hearing this. She is disappointed by the Ascendant's deceitful methodology.
But then, I have not earned it. Does not the mental struggle to achieve physical mastery truly complete the learning cycle and yield intangible rewards?
She can scarcely believe those words dropped from her own lips. Where has this new wisdom and maturity come from? She's been gifted great power and has avoided the terrible suffering that would have accompanied its attainment. Yet she does not feel worthy of it for that very reason.
Yes.
The Ascendant nods proudly.
Believing yourself unworthy of the power you wield is what will ensure that you use it wisely. Had you been able to consciously endure my trials, you'd have felt entitled to the power, and that type of arrogance would sour your judgment. I've seen hubris, born of such ferocious ambition, destroy many of my most promising pupils. I've had to kill those students, regrettably, for as their teacher, their actions were a reflection of my poor instruction.
She lifts an eyebrow at learning this, recognizing that she has taken on one of the old Stargazer's more charming idiosyncrasies.
It was their choice to act as they did. If you took away their ability to decide for themselves, then your teaching had no value. You pretend to be valiant, but you murdered them because you are afraid.
The proud dragon grumbles at this and pauses for a moment of hard introspection.
Perhaps you are right. However divine, I am far from perfect. Before I came to build these temples and to train those who were willing to learn, I was a vengeful monster. I witnessed hundreds of my kin slain by hateful warmongers, and so, in return, I dethroned many ardent kings with my fangs and claws, carrying their severed heads around as a warning of my wrath. I have taken away 10 times 10,000 lives.
She listens to the Ascendant describe its tragic history in horrific detail. She can feel a wounded, embittered heart aching behind each recollection as they are recounted to her.
That's so terrible.
She interjects while the dragon continues.
I was long the scourge of countless galaxies, until I realized that I had forgotten why I was so angry and swift to judge. My sense of remorse was gone. I knew not who I was. I only knew pain, anger, and sorrow. As penance for living a life of violence, I chose to teach others how to discern between justice and vengeance, and ways to absorb their negative emotions. I have failed so many times. I must demand perfection.
The dragon clenches its fists for an instant, and the sharp tension dissolves into a calming sigh.
Yet, even now, as you stand there teaching me, your teacher, with your precocious words, I realize perfection is an ideal that does not exist. I have always known this, but my pride led me to denial. Nobody has been brave enough to tell me the truth until now. Hence, you will live. For if I continue this way, I'll never leave behind the genuine legacy, nor the violence that I so regret.
She feels sorry for the Ascendant and wraps her arms around its snout in a comforting hug.
I understand, and I am sorry for your pain.
The dragon is a bit taken aback by this display of affection.
I sensed a kindness and compassion in you when you first arrived.
The dragon snorts.
That is how I knew that you would be the one to wield the unadulterated sword.
With the Ascendant's words, the birds that have been twittering all about the arched ceiling swarm down in a circle, forming a living altar of feathers and song. They lay and hatch a cosmic egg from which a bold translucent blade, replete with retracted thorns, is carefully unsheathed. The flocking birds hold it aloft, beckoning her to take hold of her destiny. Bright red waves of seductive warmth curl outward from the crystalline weapon. She is mesmerized by what sounds like the sword's heartbeat. Its rhythmic pulse hums a most pleasant tune. Without further hesitation, she grasps its majesty and feels its immeasurable power surge throughout her entire body. The barbed blade snaps and tings, bending fourfold and curving as crooked as an angry snake trying to shed its skin. The sword has been activated by her touch and is now a conduit for her spirit.
I give you Pusaka, heirloom of righteous indignation.
The Ascendant hovers low, bowing before the one who now claims this most ancient of weapons.
Wrought in the eternal turmoil of cosmic blood, and from Empyrean metals found in the Eastern Diamond constellation by the dragons and griffins born of stars, this unparalleled treasure will channel your spirit and unlock your limitless potential. But beware, though this weapon answers with justice, it may also retaliate with vengeance. It holds knowledge of sacrifice and is a hammer of vicious protest. It will gather the heavens at your command and be a pure source of rebellious joy. It can also become a most dreadful creature whose poison bite brings instant death. If you are to carry this, the sword of ultimate peace, you must reconcile blind prejudice. You must numb yourself to the perfect pleasure and pain that accompanies its truth.
With this blessing, the Ascendant exhales a slow and gentle breath that produces an undulating chain of marigolds, calendulas, and jasmine flowers. They swirl about Pusaka, lightening its ponderosity within her grasp.
Be not cruel, be merciful, be not aggressive, be on your guard. The shadow plays a wicked game. It will be waiting for you in the canyon of clouds.
Pusaka absorbs all of the wind-borne petals, hungrily siphoning them into its contorted blood groove.
Flowers are fragments of time. They grow from seeds made of the stars that fall. Each carries a remnant of the past and a new shard of hope for the future. But time only becomes real if you have somewhere to be. The time that passes here is not real. The ordinary, temporal realm will remain as it was before you left it.
The Ascendant grins and wiggles its long blue mustache.
So, don't worry about it. That holy artifact you hold is a pure distillation of what inspires you. It devours time. Look around. This is the reliquary of your mind. Every bit of it was inspired by you. Each temple that I've built was destroyed before its doors could even be opened. You are the only seeker who has accomplished the task of unlocking your monument. The knowledge kept on these shelves was collected by you. The myths of so many cultures, the stories, the artistry, and the symbolic languages. Every single one of your fascinations and inspirations are combined herein to enlighten your imagination. Fables, folklore, and fairy tales are weaving themselves together into a tapestry of timeless truth. A good story always tells the truth without revealing where to find it.
She certainly remembers all of them, but not who told them to her.
Does this temple have a name?
She asks the Ascendant.
You should know. It belongs to you after all.
By her befuddled expression, it is clear she doesn't know. So the dragon announces it to her in dramatic fashion.
Stella Puerta!
The Ascendant's voice booms, rumbling the air as red lightning erupts from Pusaka's thorny blade. She can barely hold on as the scarlet sword blisters her fingers. Then she feels her mind open like a window, and an intrusive gust of icy wind blasts through her consciousness with a dark vision. She sees her shadow. It reaches out for her.
What are you?
She asks as the visage of her tormentor fades.
That infernal being is your nemesis.
The dragon says,
And you know its name.
Lukiat.
She hears her voice echo across the vast expanse. She can actually see the ripples her utterance creates, remembering too late that Stargazer had warned her never to speak that name.
Yes.
The Ascendant says,
It has followed you here, and is fishing for you now, beside the mouth of the Silver Stream, where our world bleeds into the river of the Ether. It is nearly the time of the autumnal equinox, when the ecliptic shadow covers the moon. You will reach your first peak of power. It is then that you must strike, for after that event, your strength will diminish. The winter solstice gives the dark light the upper hand until your second augmentation during the solar eclipse of the vernal equinox.
How do you know all of this?
She asks, amazed and understandably confused by the Ascendant's foresight concerning the fluctuations of her mysterious powers. Considering the dragon claimed to know nothing about her, besides having observed her walking on clouds, she wonders what else was discovered during her meditation.
It says so right there on your crimson cloak.
The dragon answers,
Can you not read the symbols? They tell me all about you. I paid them no mind at first, as I prefer to let actions tell the tale.
No.
She shrugs.
Stargazer said he could read them too, but did not enlighten me as to their meanings. He also admitted he was not able to decipher the prominent triune symbol on the back of my cape.
The Ascendant snorts at this.
Why, that is your symbol, Nefelebata. Stargazer always did have trouble with the obvious. He tends to complicate simple things. That symbol is a union of the three parts of your being. Your mind, body, and spirit. Now I'm sure there are other subtleties hidden within the symbol, but the long and short of it is, the symbol means you.
She strains once more to look upon it, but she still can't see it. The dragon gestures for her to follow, and it flies out of the temple's back door. Before leaving, she holds Pusaka aloft to feel its divine energy coursing through her again. It's an addictive sensation. She feels much more confident now than she had prior to her deep meditation, leaping from billow to fluffy billow. She catches up with the dragon just in time to watch it collapse atop a mountainous cloud formation that appears to be a sheer cliff with glistening white mist and milky ethereal water pouring over it in a procession of stair-like waterfalls. The Ascendant is breathing laboriously and calls out for her.
Nefelebata, come here. You must perform one final task in order to bless Pusaka.
She leaps up the side of the cottony mountain, and positions herself on top of the waterfalls before the weary face of the reclining dragon. Its languid, serpentine body is beginning to interrupt the flow of the heavenly water.
What would you have me do?
She asks, dreading the fatal response she can almost sense coming.
I am very tired. I've endured dreamless sleep for over an eon now. It is time for me to leave this place and join the silver stream. You must cut me open so that the pure waters of heaven can continue to flow unabated through my ivory ribs. You must drink of this water, filtered through my body, for it will harden your scarlet mantle into armor that will protect you during your imminent battle. You must retrieve my diminutive heart, my dream star, from out my breast, and place it within the hilt of Pusaka. It will help with tempering the blade's hot fury. You, Nefelebata, my final student, you will be victorious.
Her duty has been made clear. Reluctantly and remorsefully, she does as the Ascendant instructs. With a single swift swipe, Pusaka slices through the sacrificial dragon's belly as effortlessly as a knife through butter, and the heavenly waters burst forth like lyrical rivers of poetry, mixed with purple blood. She cups her hands and throws back a mouthful of the infused liquid. She swallows and feels her frock harden. The soft fabric is changing into overlapping triangular scales. She digs around inside of the Ascendant's chest cavity and finds a tiny petrified object. She pulls it out and inspects it after rinsing it off in the celestial water. It is a heart-shaped dream star. The heart is deeply faceted and as dark as the velvety night sky. She inserts the dream star into a notch in Pusaka's hilt and finds that the sword begins to calm down, becoming cooler to the touch. Then the blade vanishes, sheathing itself within her wild imagination.
It will come to you again when you have need of it.
Then the Ascendant whispers its last words to her in a drawn-out breath.
Thank you, Nefelebata. Good luck. May you find your true name.
The cloven body and bones of the Ascendant gradually melt away like ice into the celestial cascade. A single silver fish wriggles out of the dragon's eye and leaps up over the waterfall. It swims through the air, seeking out the mouth of the silver stream.
I suppose I should follow that fish. It will no doubt lead me to the canyon of clouds that the Ascendant spoke of.
She thinks this aloud, and is startled by a response. An outcry from a familiar pair of unified voices, somewhere below the waterfalls. She searches to the east, near the temple of Stella Puera, as her late teacher had called it. That name does ring a bell, now that she thinks about it.
We'd better hurry if we plan to catch up to that silver fish.
She looks down and finds Speartooth lying in a downy cloud bank beside her quiver of arrows from the laughing tree.
Didn't your mother ever tell you not to leave your belongings unattended? We were starting to worry that you might not be coming back. Thank heavens time passes here, but not down there.
She smiles when she hears this, reclaims her treasures, and bounds off in pursuit of her fate. And there you have it. You know, I've always liked school. I enjoyed being a student and learning new things. Looking back, that fragment of my life is a distant, faded memory. Time moves so quickly in retrospect. Before I knew it, I had learned enough to become the teacher myself. And after playing that role for a while, it too became a foggy reflection of what once was. So where do we go from here? The greatest challenge of all is the journey to find oneself. Despite having discovered quite a few pieces along the way, the puzzle of life always remains unfinished. So, until we meet again, I wish you peace, love, and thunderstorms. Farewell, dreamers.